Hey guys, Luton here, and today I'm going to be thinking about something a little bit different for the channel, and that's weapon breakdowns and analysis. Now before we get into it, I just want to say as well thanks to Jack Frags again for allowing me to use some of his footage. If you haven't checked out his channel before, be sure to go and have a little look. Links are above and below here. Now, yeah, we're going to be thinking a bit more about weapons. Now, moving into Battlefield 4, there's a lot of weapons, a lot of kit, a lot of content. As we can see here, there are so many options available. Now, you guys know that I've always sort of steered away from really doing weapon reviews, weapon breakdowns, and I'll explain a little bit about that. But also, I just feel that I think my kind of opinion on certain things has changed over time, and also I think that I've had so many of you ask me to do weapon breakdowns, or why don't I do weapon breakdowns, that I feel like, okay, you know, if there's support here and you guys want to see this, then there's no reason why I shouldn't do it. But I will explain a little bit about my sort of thoughts on this. Now, my reason that I always said why I didn't do weapon breakdowns was, for one thing, everybody does them. For the other reason was that I just felt like I never felt like they actually had a great deal of importance, because I always feel like a weapon breakdown is often just one person's opinion, and you as a player may play, you know, it may not be the kind of weapon that you would ever use or ever want to use. And so I always feel like, well, look, you know, you can say XYZ, but it doesn't really mean that at the end of the day that's helped that person at all. All it's done is really describe the weapon. So I think if I was going to do it, I'd have to sort of, I would give like a very brief overview about what it was, how it handled, etc. But then I'd maybe go into specific situations about where you could use it, how it handled best, when was the ideal time to use it. Because also, I'm not one of these players that sticks with a certain gun and that's the only thing that you will use. More kind of pro players who play in a kind of competitive sense will do that, because they want to get to know every minute detail of a weapon so that they can excel at that and it's consistent for them. But that's not how I play, and it's not how a lot of people play. Some people will play in a different way, where you choose your weapon for specific situations, and that's what I do when I'm in game. I will look at how a situation is changing, or a map, or a layout, or a game mode, and I'll say, okay, I know that this gun is going to be the best to suit me in this specific situation. Now, I think that is much more helpful than just saying, well, this gun fires at this rate and it has this and it does this, because and you know, I like it, I think it performs pretty well, it does well at medium, it does well at long. I think much better to sort of say, well, look, in these specific situations it's going to work better. And I think that I could develop a format which would allow me to kind of do that. So you'd have a kind of an initial overview period where I talk about it for a couple of minutes, just sort of overviewing, then you go into sort of more specific situations and hopefully some examples of how that would break down. So yeah, that's really where I was kind of thinking to sort of direct this towards. Another thing for me is that I always feel a bit like the kind of data and the stats, the kind of raw numbers, are given too much emphasis. I often feel that they're given a disproportionate weight to their actual importance in the game, because people often go, well, this has got like 0.5 this, it's got a SS23 blah blah blah, and it's got bad. You know, seriously, there's a level or degree of importance with that, and I think it needs to be weighed up appropriately to its kind of relevance in game. There is definitely a level of importance to it, but I often feel like people kind of look at things on paper too much, kind of side by side, and be like, well, you know, this gun must be better. Well, I've had so many situations where that is not the case, and I will try out guns that, and I'll just find that I have a really excellent time with them. And some people will be like, what, you used that weapon? And then I'm like, yeah, it works totally fine. And this is the thing, is like, people often, I feel like they discount guns based on the fact, the raw data and so on, or they maybe try it a couple of times, they don't get on very well with it. Well, it may be that you just weren't using it in the right situation or the context, or maybe you just had a bad game. Don't discount it just for that. So I think that's what I would try and put into my videos for weapons and sort of equipment breakdowns, is what I try to do with a lot of stuff, make it a bit more personable and sort of think about the kind of overall sort of impact of that kit in the game, rather than just the raw specs. But there is another reason why I think this would be an important change to make in terms of content coming from my channel, and that's that with Battlefield 4, as you can see from these menu screens, there is a ton of new content, information. There is so much more that's upgradable than ever before. And so I think that this is actually going to have a bigger impact in the game than we have seen before. And therefore, I actually think that it's important information to cover, perhaps more so than previously. I mean, up to this point, we have had different weapons and blah, 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 and all the setups. But I think more so than ever, your specific loadout, specific choices in the game will have a greater bearing than they have done to this point. And I guess that's another reason why I feel, like I say, a bit more compelled to do this with Battlefield 4. I think there is so many more loadout options and combinations that it really is going to give you a greater, sort of range of detail and depth. There's a lot more at stake for you as a player when it comes to selecting a specific loadout. And I think there's multiple ways that we can do these series. One will be for me to select certain things that I think are really specifically good to a certain situation. But I mean, a popular series that is run across multiple other producers are kind of loadout series where the subscribers get to choose a kit, and I think that's again it's a sensible good video to make, because it's a kind of you have one video where the producer is making a selection and saying, well, look, this is my choice and this is what I think about it, and then you have the subscribers going, hey, have you tried this before? Try this, see how you get on with it. And then it gives them a kind of good perspective, and it's a nice bit of interaction as well. So guys, that's what I was really thinking about today, and sort of just assessing and thinking about what we can do. Obviously there's going to be other series and different content coming up for Battlefield 4. I already have a few ideas about sort of new things that I want to run there, and I know another thing that you guys have asked me so much is, can I do sort of breakdowns of the maps? I actually have got a really nice idea for how I want to run these out, and so that'll be coming when Battlefield 4 comes. When Battlefield 4 comes, I'm going to be, as I'm sure a lot of other producers will, hitting it really hard. I'm probably going to book a bit of time there so that I can get some content done, especially in the first week, but I think map breakdowns is something that people are going to be very interested in. I'm probably going to do a mixture of short and long versions of those kind of things, because I think some people want to get literally an overview, some people want more detailed. So I think for each map, I mean, it's very difficult as well because you have so many different game modes, but I think in the first week what I'll try and do is do some short overviews, and then I'll move into some more specific breakdowns. But I think for me as well, another series that I'm going to run into Battlefield 4. To this point, that I did for like my DLCs and stuff with like the close quarters and sort of aftermath and so on. I did my detailed map overviews where I literally walk around, investigate the map, break it down, sort of look at certain positions, things that you need to know, and it really kind of helps people to kind of look at these certain things, because often you find positions that you maybe wouldn't have thought of yourself, and it just gives you a really great overview. So I'll definitely be doing those, but as I say, I want to run a kind of shorter, more kind of overview aspect as well, and that's something that the spectator mode in Battlefield 4 is also going to be fantastic for. It's going to be really, really, really good to be able to make these kind of overview videos where you can just do almost kind of like sort of fly pasts, which is going to be really excellent. You kind of break down the most specific aspects of those maps. So those are two things at least that I'm thinking of when it comes to Battlefield 4, and I think it's going to be really good kind of day one content that you can get into and get to grips with, so it'll give you a good understanding of sort of where things are and sort of how things are being found out. But as I say, if you guys have any thoughts for series or concepts that you'd like me to take a look at for Battlefield 4, I'm more than happy to hear those and run them past. But also, I say, really important today, I want to hear your thoughts about weapon breakdown videos, also I guess loadout videos as well, those kind of things. As I say, it's a popular series, both of them, among a lot of Battlefield producers, but as I say, for all the reasons I've outlined today, I think it's something that I want to get into for Battlefield 4. It's something that, as I say, I avoided in Battlefield 3, but it's something that with Battlefield 4 I think there is a legitimate reason to go into. I think that the choices you make, as I've said already, in Battlefield 4 are going to be much more important, much more specific, and you have such a greater breadth of choice for all the different things that you can make across all classes. I mean, there's great examples like the DMRs, the fact that snipers going to be able to be running with like carbines and things like this now. So there's so much more sort of interaction and the ability to kind of change out your kit that it becomes ever more important to choose a correct setup. To this point, I've always felt like you can kind of chop and change a bit and get away with it, but I think with Battlefield 4, a specific kit is going to make an extreme difference to how successful you are in certain situations. So it's not necessarily about picking the right kit or the best kit. What it's going to be about is knowing the correct choices to make at the right time. So picking the kit, knowing how to work with it, where to apply it, and in doing so, be more successful in the game, have more wins, more victories, be a stronger force for you and your team on the battlefield. Thanks for watching today, guys. If you've enjoyed it, as always, drop me a little like, always helps out, and I'll see you next time for some more Battlefield 4.